Hello everyone and welcome back. You're watching the Vintage Sewing Machine Garage as I am further exploring a machine that is new to me. Maybe it's new to you, or maybe you own one of these fascinating white model 510 somewhere in the 1970s. So I have opened up, of course, the top panel. We've opened up the side panel and had a look at the side of the motor, and I wanted to go underneath. Of course, as I mentioned in an earlier video, there is no mechanical system here because all of it is in the free arm. This is a free arm machine, and this is, of course, the aluminum frame that holds the machine up. Let's see. We have, interestingly, after all of the straight head screws that I have been undoing with this machine, I have come across some Phillip heads, and I think they're original. Again, in 1970s particularly, we start to see more use of Phillips head screws for whatever reason. I see washers. Now, keep in mind, when you've got a machine for the first time, you want to kind of study, before you start unscrewing things, kind of study what you're seeing. And that's interesting. Looks like a threaded hole here, but I don't see a screw, and I'm trying to remember if I took one off. I don't remember that, if I did. So I don't know. Anyway, you want to make sure that you study. You may see lots of bolts and screws under a machine, but not all of them should necessarily be undone. For example, here we have feet, rubber feet, and they were designed to be replaced because there are screws. The screws are there mostly just to hold them in place. This is, I'm used to seeing this on machines going, much further back. You see them on, the Singer Featherweight, for example, where you have a screw in the center. But I'm not going to unscrew these. Now, if you remember some of the 1970s Kenmore series, the 158 and 1941 models, for example, they have lots of screws, but remember, not every screw is going to give you access to the underside of the machine. Sometimes they have other purposes. But anyway, this is a black plate, and I believe it is the base plate of this machine. So we're going to first, we're going to get a really good grip so we don't strip the screw, because they may never have been turned since the machine left the factory. So let's try extra hard. Ooh, okay, I finally got it to turn. That was tough. Now, if you get in that situation and you can't strong arm it, and you really shouldn't, if I had known that this was going to be that tight, I probably would have held back a bit. So what can we do? I think I know just the answer for that. I'm going to, and I don't have to always do this, you may not either, but I am going to take some penetrant oil, and I happen to have it here on the workbench. I have many different brands that I use. I have this 3-in-1. It's not 3-in-1 oil. It's 3-in-1 Professional Performance Penetrant. But if you don't have this brand, another brand could work. But I'm going to come in here and I'm going to just put just a little bit where these screws are, trying not to get it on the rubber feet because we don't need that. And even though I've already loosened that one just for good measure, let's put some there as well, because and how long it will take to affect it, it's hard to say. Sometimes penetrant oils work quickly, and sometimes you need to wait several days. It's really hard to know for sure. But one thing we do know, we don't want to strip these screws. That is not something that should not be a goal ever. I have done it before, not necessarily on a sewing machine, on other things, and some of you at some point in your lives may have stripped a screw that you weren't really expecting. You didn't think it was going to cause that damage, and it did, and it was not fun. So it's best to be patient instead of doing what I just did here. Just I wasn't expecting it to be that. Just coming in here, taking a rag, an old stitch testing fabric remnant here. I'm just trying to make sure that, yeah, I don't think I got any on this foot. Just kind of wiping up any of this excess because that's of no use to us here. Let's see. Let's see if it did anything. No, it's pretty tight. So I'm going to let this sit and come back to it. Let it do its thing. Because penetrant oils are very, very thin. That's why they don't make good lubrication oils for your machine, but they are very helpful in doing what they were designed to do, which is to penetrate and loosen up either old oil or sometimes corrosion. It can break those bonds depending on how bad they are, and that allows you to start moving, something that arguably, it's been these screws I'm willing to bet have not been moved since the day, sometime in the 70s. We're half century ago, so not too surprising that they're a little stiff. So we'll let that sit, and then we'll come back to it and see if it wants to, at least if the screws want to wake up. Okay, everyone, we're gonna go back again and give it the college try once more now that the penetrant oil has sat for a bit and hopefully worked its magic. One thing you can also do to help avoid stripping a screw is, in addition to being patient and using things like penetrant oil, sometimes heat, if you can get a good grip on the machine or whatever it is you're trying to loosen the screw or bolt on, and then hold it and then push with the, see if I can get more of this in the camera view here. You can see I'm holding the screwdriver. I've got my screwdriver tips, right? This one's already turning. Oh, that's nice. What you want to do is push in as hard as you can before you turn, and it will help a little bit in trying to prevent, this one, come on, you're a little more stiff, help prevent stripping, because that's the last thing we want to do. And really, this is the reason that I often love to, this one was loose, looser. It's funny. It's so funny. You can put penetrant oils on multiple screws, and sometimes some are more stuck than others. I still can't make any real sense of why that is, but it's a thing apparently. Okay. From here, I can probably do this more quickly. Now, I'm anticipating, assuming, right, that these bolts are going to be the same length, but that's not always the case. It's not true on those 70s Kenmore, so let's not, check, pay attention to it. If they are the same, then it's no big deal. If they are different lengths, I've never opened this before, so I don't know, maybe they are, maybe they aren't. If they are different lengths, remember which one goes where. You can take a picture with a camera, with your phone camera, or you can draw a diagram or make a note, but whatever you do, make sure you remember so you don't have to guess. And again, now let's see what's going on here. All right, this is interesting because this plate looks like it should slide because I've got feet that are kind of helping to hold it. It doesn't really need any help in being held in, but there it is. Let's see here. Oh, I see. Aha. Well, the reason this doesn't want to come out just very simply and smoothly is because this plate is attached to something. Can any of you guess what it's attached to? I think the Japanese, if this is a Japanese made machine, were I think they were taking clues from some of the European companies, because I could tell when I was trying to move the plate, it was pulling against me. Not because it was stuck. Well, it is attached to something. And look what it's attached to. Apparently it's attached to the motor. I leaned over to the right to look at it. Let me show you. I think I understand this correctly. So here's our motor, right? And here's our motor bracket. Well, our motor bracket is bolted. It's either bolted or riveted or welded, I can't tell exactly, to this plate. So I do believe that the plate comes out, but I believe that this belt needs to be removed in order for that to happen, obviously, because the belt is connecting the motor pulley to the hand wheel. So if you decide, that tells me how this is set up. Okay. Interesting. Very interesting. I want to check something out here. I'm looking at this back grill because this grill is very curious. I believe it's here for air to pass through, because remember, the motor needs to cool, and the side plate does not have a grill. But I wonder if this comes out. You would think if it was just meant to be a grill, there would be no slot here, right? And there's, what's in that? What's that? Is that a bolt of some sort? Very strange. Okay. Well, interesting. So, I have typically seen this on Husqvarna machines made in Sweden, and the Bernina machines, where you have to go underneath to get access to the motor, because they just thought that would be lots of fun for those of us years later. I'm sure they were not worried about future restorers. And as one of my viewers has mentioned, and I appreciate that because I really didn't know, they said in Europe, DIY was less of a thing, and that, having something like a sewing machine professionally serviced, it's a profession, and people expect to have that done professionally. Okay, well, I don't really need to access the motor for anything in particular. And let's see if I can we'll get our view down here. But fortunately, I can access the motor for oiling. And I'm trying to remember if I did this in an earlier video or not, but there's one little hole right there. That is the only place that should be where sewing machine oil should be added. And I can feel behind my oiler tip is kind of like a little pad, which is there to act as sort of like a wick, right? It'll hold oil for at least a little bit. And can't tell if any's going anywhere. All right, just to make sure, I'm going to take a cotton swab here and mop up just to make sure there's no excess oil. Remember, less is more when we're talking about vintage machine lubrication of motors. They do not want to be, you want to be very specific. If you don't know where a sewing machine motor needs lubrication, or if you know where, but you don't know if it needs oil or grease, don't do anything. You do not want to take any action on your sewing machine motor unless you know specifically for sure what it needs, because you can really cause a lot of damage there. Okay, so I guess this little grill is a grill. I guess I just don't know. I'm still curious to know where and how you does this piece get removed? Because it looks, why is it cut out if it doesn't? Let's see what's over. Whoops, what's over here on this end of things? I see. That's very curious. Very curious. All right. So what are we going to do? We're going to go ahead and put our panel back. I don't really. If I needed to replace the belt, if the belt were missing or shredded or tired, but that belt is in great shape. And let's see. Or if my motor was hurting, then I would most definitely consider. All right, I would definitely consider just taking out the entire, removing the belt and taking out the entire motor assembly. Again, I think, I see these here. I think these are riveted points where that motor is mounted. But anyway, I don't have any reason to do so. But I have shown in other videos, again with Berninas and Husqvarnas are the ones that come to mind. I think I may have had to do this with a FAF. I can't remember. The FAFs are another European design that is not always service friendly to those of us who restore machines. That doesn't mean they're not friendly to someone who's trained to do them. Maybe you can get the service manuals for those, and it could be straightforward. I don't know if a special tool is needed for some of those machines. Obviously not the ones I restore, because I don't have proprietary tools that I use. I use tools that any of us can get pretty much readily available. You would need to find access to a service manual if you were going to perform something that it's really not obvious. One of the reasons that I have found with all the different brands of vintage machines over the years, most of the machines that I've serviced have been made in a way that service was not particularly onerous or difficult. I mean, there are exceptions here and there, but for the most part, whether it was servicing the motor or the bobbin winder or whatever it was everything was accessible because it was designed to be. And with European manufacturers from this era, their machines are designed to be serviced, absolutely. However, not necessarily by the customer or the members of the general public. So, and that's just, like I say, I think that's more of a cultural norm, and but you have to give credit. At least they were designed to be serviced. You got to give them that, because today, one of our greatest concerns is that, is anything designed to be serviced, or is it designed to be thrown away? So let's see. I'm still curious as to what purpose this has. Yeah, I'm fascinated by this grill, and like I said, I don't really know how it comes off. If any of you know, feel free to share, but I'm going to keep moving forward because my client is waiting for this machine and wanting it to be hopefully put back into work service, ready to work. They have not tried to sew with it yet. I have not either, for that matter. I have been focused solely on this is so curious. On testing this machine to make sure that it is going to be able to sew. That's our greatest concern at the moment. Okay, so what do we have left here? Let's go ahead and I'm going to get our camera back up here, and we're going to go ahead and start reassembling. go ahead and do that right quick. All of the machine, as far as I know, should have now been lubricated. And again, if you've been working on a machine and you're not sure if you've gotten every spot, go ahead and try it out. Eventually you will figure out these different areas because the machine will talk to you. If everything's working great except one part, then you can go back and look. It's like, oh yeah, I forgot to lubricate that, and that's okay. That's just part of the deal, I believe, on how we learn to work on these machines that we all admire so much. All right. Going to go ahead and I'll just do this right here. Put a drop, a drop, a drop, and get our 3 bolts that hold on the lid, the access lid to this machine. If you look at items, consumer items of any kind, it could be a kitchen appliance, it could be a piece of electronics, or a sewing machine. You may notice that as you go from the oldest to the newest, it's very odd, but they over time, right? They didn't do it all at once, but over time, they would increasingly make it more difficult to access parts of the machines to service them. Today, one of the biggest issues that you have is you've got products that instead of being built with lots of parts, they build components so that you have to replace the whole component. And if you don't, you can't use the device. And of course, that makes it so expensive that people sometimes say, well, the heck with it, I'm not gonna mess with it. Okay, all right. Got our lid on there. What's left? Let's come back around. We'll go to the side, and we have our motor belt pulley access plate. So I believe, I'm pretty sure, could be mistaken, but I'm pretty sure that this machine is a Japanese made model, and it may be one of the last because the Kenmores by this period, we get in the 70s, once you get into 77, 78, the Kenmores are made in Taiwan. They have moved off, the manufacturer took production out of Japan because costs in Japan were rising, right? As countries develop and become more industrialized, over time, their cost of production goes up. The standard of living goes up. People expect to be paid better wages, and manufacturers start looking for other places, right? That's even happened now in China with some of the manufacturing, leaving China for places cheaper. And okay, I misspoke. I said there's actually a grill here and on the side there. So I'll have to see if I can find a service manual for this to explain why is there a seam here, but then how do you remove this? Now, I could try to experiment, but I don't want to damage it, and I don't need to. I've had situations with sewing machines where I've had to go in because something's not working. But right now, that is not an issue. And now that we have the lid back on, and this, it now has the name White, of course. All right, so there we go. We've got our lid. Let's see, what have we got here? This, I'll have to see. I have to look. I told you I'm looking for a manual. I may have found the manual for this because I have a dial here that has zigzag. You can turn it different ways, but I don't know if this is lined up properly. I may have to check into that. I'm not sure. First, I have to see what this does. I think this is a control for some of these decorative stitches. It could end up controlling how wide or how long the decorative stitches are, because sometimes some machines have separate controls for those decorative cams. I'm not sure why, because the decorative cams, decorative stitch cams, are, again, they're controlled up here. So there's a plastic piece that looks sort of like this. It's black and it engages with this knob. But if I turn that and at all when I had the lid off, I may have to go in and reset that. We'll see. But we must crawl before we walk, and right now we need to see if this machine will at least crawl. So that is how I put back together the white model 510. Put your comments down below if you have one, or if you don't have one, or if you think this machine is cool. It is unusual because it has its little, fold out spring-loaded flaps to make this free arm into a flatbed, convert to a flatbed. All right, so there we go, guys. In the next video, I am going to attempt to thread this machine, and we will see how it handles threading. It still has a needle there. And see how the threading goes, and then we will potentially plug it in and see if it runs. So we're going to get close to sort of testing the machine. Now remember, when I get a machine like this, and I've gone through it, I've cleaned it, I've oiled it, I've been making videos on it if you've been following along, and at some point, when I test it, it may or may not make a good stitch, and if it doesn't, that tells me, well, my work's not done, right? But this is just the initial process that any machine that's been sitting for a long time, and I could tell that this one had, it was somewhat stiff, full of lint. I found 5 pieces of thread lodged in this thing, so that's a good kind of foundational servicing before we actually test the machine. So anyway, if you are interested at all in this machine, feel free to follow along. In the next video, like I say, we'll try giving it a threading and try to kind of see what it's interested in doing. Thank you all for watching. We'll see you next time.